Good morning. We are live. Let me just get things adjusted here a little bit. And sorry that I look a little tired, but I am a little tired because we had a Halloween party last night and so got back a little bit later than expected and didn't get quite as much sleep as I would have liked. But I'm sure that's happened to quite a few of you as well. So, good morning, everybody. I see that we have 8. It's wonderful to see you all. Today, we are going to spend some time really unpacking how do you expose your personal narrative, what a personal narrative is, and how you can go about changing it. So it'll be really fun. And I'm happy that you joined me this morning. My name is Jackie Cawley, and I am the CEO and founder for the Deline Institute for Growth and Wellness. So if you haven't met me before, that's who I am, and welcome. And the basis of our talk today comes from a framework that I created about a year and a half ago called Power Up. Power Up is an acronym for 7 steps in a process in order to become more empowered and to feel more confident and have more joy in your life as you are open to the possibilities and unlocking your full potential and moving forward in your life. So, today, what we will really spend some time on is one of the steps around exposing your narrative. So, let's talk a little bit about that. First, I just want to say congratulations to you for coming today. Just showing up is taking a huge step forward in your own personal journey of development and transformation and growth. So celebrate you. Okay, so let's go over what is a narrative. What do we mean by that? A narrative is a story. It's basically a story that you tell yourself. And it's the filter or the lens that you basically filter all of the data that's coming in around you. And as you're experiencing yourself in your conscious mind, as you're experiencing the world around you, you have certain filters or lenses in the way that you individually, as a unique person, experience the world versus somebody else. And that narrative or story is developed as we grow. Now, when you are, even when you're in your mom's, womb, you are picking up a lot of data around you. Your senses are working 24/7, 365, and all of that data comes in, and your brain is trying to make sense of the world. So as you learn and grow as a child, you will have experiences and pull in all this data and sometimes have very strong emotions or sensations or feelings that go along with those experiences. And as your brain is making sense of the world for you, and as it's taking all that information in, it starts to lay it in your subconscious mind and your memory banks. And that happens over time. Obviously, our experiences are really influenced by all of those around us as we're learning and growing as children. And so our stories, our narratives, or the beliefs that we have around ourselves, they are created and influenced by our parents and other caregivers. It could be grandparents, aunts and uncles, friends and neighbors. It's influenced by teachers and your coaches and religion, your cultural influences, where you live, etc. All of these things come into play as you're laying down memories. And as you continue to take in data, as you continue to learn, as you continue to grow throughout your childhood, you are building up that story over time. And it is unique for every person. It's not good, it's not bad. It's just how it gets created and laid down in your memory banks. And what works for us really well as a child may not work so well when you become an adult. And we'll go into that a little bit in just a few minutes. So each one of us has a way of looking at the world, at ourselves, and experiencing the world, which is unique to each one of us. And again, gets developed in childhood. And over time, what can happen is that the thought that you had or the belief that you had becomes stronger and stronger and stronger, because the way that your brain works is that it has connections, electrical and chemical connections between the neurons or the nerve cells in the brain. And it's almost like it's a highway or a pathway. So each memory that you lay down, things that you are learning, create different pathways or neural connections and chemical interactions. And that's how your subconscious mind will tee something up for your conscious mind. A perfect example, you are walking down the street, you're ready to move across the street. Suddenly, in your peripheral vision, you're not really even aware of it all that much. You notice that a car is coming toward you or a truck is coming toward you. And so instead of continuing to move forward, you kind of pull yourself back. Why does that happen? Because your brain says to you, oh, I'm taking in this data and there may be a danger. So, Jackie, hold on, hold on. And you're not even always conscious of that, because your brain is just automatically teeing that up for you. And that's how it works over and over again. Your brain is trying to keep you alive, keep you out of danger, keep you safe, and it's making sense of the world. So as you're taking in data right now, as you're sitting here with me, you may be taking in data. And as that data comes in, you're filtering it with your own story, your beliefs, etc., that you developed as a child, and that will get teed up to your conscious mind. Your conscious mind will pay attention to it and then act on it. So that's pretty much how your brain works in a very simplistic way. So when we're children, so we'll go back to that for a second. When we're children, the things that we do to cope in difficult situations or hard times or good times, the things that we learn work really well for us in childhood, and then sometimes don't always work as well for us in adulthood. And I'll share my story with you a little so that you can understand that. So I came from a pretty dysfunctional family. My mom had mental health issues. She abused a number of different substances. And so life was really chaotic for me as a child. And I was the oldest in the family. And my way of trying to make sense of the world and try to make things okay for myself and for at home and less chaos was to be a people pleaser. So I tried to be good. So I would try to be really, really good, be a perfectionist, and try to please people in order to make it less chaotic, because then it felt safer. And I felt like I had a little bit of control. And that worked really well for me as a child. What happens as an adult? Well, as an adult, if I'm a people pleaser, I might be doing things for people that then makes me feel resentful, frustrated, angry, etc. So as a people pleaser, it might have helped as a child, but as an adult, when I was not setting good boundaries, not saying no, trying to make people happy, it created a situation where I wasn't always happy and even held myself back at times. The same thing with being a perfectionist, right? If I'm a perfectionist and I'm trying to be really good, because if you're good, if you feel good as a child, then you are good. If you feel bad as a child, oftentimes you'll think I'm bad, right? So as a child, if I'm a perfectionist, I'm trying to be really, really good, that's fine. And it might help around the house and you get rewarded, right, in school, etc. But what happens as an adult? Well, as a perfectionist, you may be very self-critical. I know that I was. So I might be very self-critical. I might be trying to always do the right thing and do it perfectly and hold on to things until it's perfect and not share it with others. And again, kind of hold myself back. So both of those things may have worked well for me at the time when I was a child. But just like you grow out of your clothes or styles don't fit anymore, the same thing happens sometimes with those beliefs that we created or that narrative that we create as a child. And it worked as a great coping mechanism then, but not so much as an adult. So what you need to do is you need to become aware of it. And that's what we're talking about here today, about exposing that narrative for you. If it's exposed, then you can adjust it and you can align it better with who you are now and where you want to go in the future, right? So That's how you created it. It was, basically all the data that you took in, the memories that you laid down in your memory banks, and the way that you were filtering the world around you to make it make sense and make it work for you as a child. And then as you grew, you continue to carry that with you into the future. So, how do you expose it? In the last session, we went through the 5 whys process. And the 5 whys is a technique that we use in process improvement in a lot of industries, including healthcare, where we keep asking the question why until we can get to a point where we understand what the root cause of something is. A situation, a problem, an adverse event is oftentimes what we look at when we're in healthcare. So the way that you can expose this for yourself is to ask yourself why over and over, maybe why you make certain decisions or how you ended up in the place that you are today. And so if we take an example of a real common example is people and their fear of talking in public. If you have a fear of talking in public, as an adult, you may try to shy away from that, right? So every time you get asked to speak in public, you're like getting antsy, you feel sweaty, you're sick to your stomach, you get very anxious, and you say, "Oh no, I can't do that. I'm busy. I'm sorry, I can't do that conversation or presentation for you tomorrow. I don't really want to talk to those people. I don't feel comfortable talking to groups," and that might be fine. But why? Well, I don't like it because it makes me anxious. Okay. Why? Why does it make you anxious? Well, it just makes me feel like I don't know what I'm doing and I'm going to mess up. And that makes me feel bad. Well, why do you have that sense that you're going to mess up? Like, why do you think that? Why do you get anxious? And then why do you get this sense that you're going to mess up? How does that work for you? And so if you ask yourself why again, it might cause you to do a little time travel where you go back in time and you say, when was that time that I felt this way the first time? Like, what can I remember back in my childhood or back in the past where I felt this way, or this might have gotten laid down in my memory banks? And if you go way back, you might have discovered that as a kid, you were doing a presentation and maybe made a mistake and the kids laughed at you. Or maybe you tripped on the way up to the front of the room and the kids laughed at you. And when that happened, it made you feel bad. And so the emotions that you had at that time, the sensations that you had at that time in the situation, what you were experiencing, all of those things came together and created a memory for you. Your subconscious mind took that information and laid it down. And it was back in your memory banks. So now what happens, because your brain is so good at trying to keep you out of danger, and it doesn't know if it's a real or a perceived danger, but it's really good at picking them up. So now whenever you get asked to do that public speaking, your brain is looking out for you, and it will quickly make you feel the same way that you did that very first time where you felt ashamed or embarrassed back as a child. But now you're an adult and you're an expert in your field. You know your information better than anybody else does. So why do you still come to the table, or as if you don't want to share your expertise, your wisdom with other people, and you get stuck in that same sensation or memory that you had as a young child? By getting down to that root cause of really understanding what that limiting belief is, or that tendency, or that reason or rationale, if you go and do that time travel, excuse me, my allergies are acting up a little today. So if you go back in time and do a little bit of that time travel and understand where that memory got laid down and how it got laid down, you've now built a lot of self-awareness and become much more conscious of the reason why you decide you don't want to do the public speaking. And I'm just mentioning public speaking because that tends to be something that people can, pretty much all relate to. So for me, until I was able to really understand that a couple of my tendencies, my shadow tendencies, were to be people-pleasing perfectionist, until I became really aware of that, I couldn't do anything to adjust it and say no more often, because no is a complete sentence. My hairdresser told me that. And I was able to start setting a little bit better boundaries with myself and with others. And I started to act differently and make decisions differently. But I couldn't do that until I became aware of it. And that's what you need to do too. And that's why we talk about exposing that personal narrative or story that you tell yourself. And those limiting beliefs, the things that are keeping you back and holding you back from reaching your full potential, right? And those, they're self-imposed, and it's until you become aware of them, until you really serve them up to you in your conscious mind, it's very difficult to do anything about them. And I think what's really important for you to understand is that as you uncover some of the root causes of why you do things the way that you do, or what it is, that story that you tell yourself, whether it's I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not tone enough, I'm not fast enough, whatever it happens to be. I should do this, I should do that, I shouldn't do this, I should always do X, I should never do Y. These are things that you've created in your head based on all that you learned as you were growing up, but it doesn't always fit you now and where you want to go. So once you become conscious of that, then you can do something about it. And here's the thing, all of these shadow tendencies, these ways that we have of seeing and viewing the world, and what we call limiting beliefs, right? They're not good or bad. These are all just parts of you. And being able to be more self-aware and understand who you are and how you think and how your mind works, all that does is allow you to make adjustments that fit better for you now. So, for example, if I'm a people pleaser who's not really good at saying no, and I'm always taking on too much on my plate, what happens? I get exhausted. I'm tired. I'm starting to feel burnt out, right? And then you hit the wall and yell and scream at people in your life, and it doesn't make them feel good, and it doesn't make you feel good. So if you're aware of that, you can say, okay, I'm a people pleaser, and that's fine. However, I got to please myself first. I need to put myself first. And that might feel really weird because we're told we're not supposed to, right? We're supposed to be humble, think about other people, be of service, and that's important. To be selfless and of service is really, really important. But you also have to love yourself and put yourself as number one and do that self-care and fill your cup so that you can be there for other people. Because if you don't, then you can't be there for other people, and you become, again, frustrated, unhappy, resentful, and it can really come out in bad ways, right? So that awareness is really key, and that time travel can help you significantly. I know when I was going through my recovery a couple years ago, I had that time to reflect. And so when I thought about myself as a people pleaser and a perfectionist, etc., I had to go back in time to really uncover when that started for me. And those tendencies that we have. I mean, you can usually go back to some type of an incident, event, or a group of events that created that same sensation, same sense of emotion, etc., the physical feelings that you have in your body. So again, going back and doing that time travel can be really, really key in helping you to better understand how it got laid down, where it got laid down, why it got laid down as a memory, and even embrace it, because that helped you at a point in your life. And that was just your brain and your mind learning. So what can be learned can be relearned. You can actually unlearn something, and because you know how your brain works now, and it's laying down memories based on your experiences, and takes that information, puts it down into your subconscious mind, and then when you need to have that come back up to keep you out of danger or in some moment of need, or you're just asking for that information to come forward to your consciousness, the connections in your brain, those chemical and uh, electrical interactions that happen and create those pathways, tease that information up, brings it right back to your brain. So just like it got laid down the first time, you can unlearn it, stop using some of those highways and byways in your brain, and create new ones. And you can do that your entire life. You can continue to learn, continue to grow, and relearn and repattern how your brain is functioning for your whole life, which is really cool, right? It's cool that we can continue to learn new tricks all the way through our entire lives. You're never too old to learn, to grow, and to lay some of these new pathways down. All it is electrical and chemical connections that happen based on our experiences and the data that we're taking in and how we lay them down in our memory banks. So, what is learned can be unlearned and relearned. And that is what is so cool about exposing your personal narrative, understanding where it helps you or not, looking at what you've outgrown, just like you outgrow clothes or shoes as a child or a style in one decade to the next. Although I do wish I had some of my stuff back from like 20 or 30 years ago, back in style now. But you can replace what was there and reframe it and relearn it. And I think that is incredibly powerful and empowering, right? Because you have that power once you have understood and gotten to that why for yourself. You have that power to change it for the future. And that is like totally cool. All right. So, how do you do that? Well, as I mentioned, when your brain is laying down memories in your memory banks, in that subconscious portion of your mind, it does so in a way that prioritizes information of what's really important versus what's not so important. And if you think about that, what that means is that if something is a very strong physical, emotional, multi-sense experience, your brain will say, oh, this must be important, and put it in a special place in your brain, right? Push it into your memory banks in a way that says this one is of higher priority, because this is going to keep her healthy, well, out of danger, etc. And so when you lay down a memory, the more that you can utilize as many senses as possible and associate that that information with what I like to call anchors, or something in your body that is very strong. So you can, it's basically, you want to create a sensation, you want emotions around it, and you want them to be very positive, because that will help to tee that information up to you a little bit faster, because your brain will do that, right? It's trying to keep you out of danger. So if you're laying that memory down and it's associated with feeling terrible and anxious and scared, it will take that information, and when you get in a similar situation, it'll tee it back up. And that's great in the moment. That might be keeping you safe, but it might be holding you back from doing the things that you want to in the future. So what you want to do is try to associate things that you want to lay down and learn for the future in your memory banks with very strong positive emotions. And we call those, the way of doing those things, affirmations and visualizations. See, again, your brain doesn't know what's real and what's made up by your mind, your conscious mind. So you, in your mind, can say to yourself, I am absolutely the best thing since sliced bread. I am beautiful. I am smart. I am a best-selling author with a vlog and a podcast. Whatever it is that you want to say, you can say that. And if you say it over and over again and you associate it with strong emotions that are very positive and physical sensations in your body, you take all those things together and you put it down into your memory bank, and you do that over and over again, you create a new pathway, a new set of chemical and electrical interactions that create a pathway. And the more that you use it, it's just like riding on a bike on the road or going on a trail. The more that it's used, the stronger it gets. And so you want to keep using it over and over and over again. Sorry, I'm just getting a call here. And so affirmations, we say to do those daily, to do those positive things that we say to ourselves to replace those old limiting beliefs. So what I'm going to ask you to do right now is to take a sheet of paper and write down, if you think about it, what are three 2 to 3 things that you tell yourself or you think about yourself that are old ways of thinking that you are kind of limiting you in some way, some way, shape, or form. Can you think back to something that is limiting you in some way, shape, or form, and write those things down? So just take a minute and do that. All right. So now that you've written down those 2 to 3 things that have been kind of holding you back or limiting you, or are negative ways that you have been kind of talking to yourself, right, in your head, which so many of us do, look at those and now think, what would I replace that with? If I'm thinking I'm not good enough, what do I replace that with? If I'm thinking I'm not toned enough, what is it I want to be? If I'm thinking I'm not good at math, what do you want it to be? So from your limiting belief, flip it around and think about something positive. And that's the story that you're going to start to tell yourself. That's the affirmation that you're going to start to speak to. So a couple of years ago, when I thought about writing a book, I was like, how am I going to write a book? Who am I to write a book? I'm just a person. Like, why would I think that I could be an author? So I started to use an affirmation to help me act like I was an author. And you got to do this in a way, when you're saying these affirmations, you got to do it in a way that's very, very positive. So I will go for walks. I love to go for walks in nature, as I mentioned in the past to you. And when I go for walks, I actually will sing to myself little ditties. And one of those was, I'm a best-selling author with a vlog and a podcast. And I hold cool retreats several times a year. And I would say this over and over and over and over and over. And then I became an author. And it wasn't just because like one day, it's like a wand came through and said, okay, Jackie, you're an author. It was because I started to think of myself that way. And I started to act like an author. I started writing on a daily basis. I was working on what I needed to learn as far as self-publishing, getting an editor, etc. And so I started to act differently. And I was telling myself every single day when I would go for that walk and I would sing that song and I would move my body in a way that would help me lay that down in my brain as a new way of looking at myself and experiencing the world. That instead of saying, who am I to think I can write a book? I became a best-selling author. And I'm not a best-selling author, but I am an author. And that was because I started to think about myself and talk to myself differently than I had before. All right, so that's affirmations. So as you look at your limiting beliefs, then create the ones that are more positive and more aligned with where you are now and where you want to go, and write those down. And that's when you're going to start talking to yourself. So when that negative self-talk starts to creep in, you're going to be like, stop right there. And you're going to go forward with your own positive self-talk instead. So let's talk about visualizations. They're equally as important because, again, your brain doesn't know what's real and what is made up by your mind, your conscious mind. So your conscious mind can tell your brain whatever it wants, whatever you want it to, and you're in control. This is where you have the power. And that, again, is so cool because you have the power to tell your subconscious mind whatever it is that you want to, and you can visualize it. So the visualization, again, needs to be very positive. It needs to be forward growth, positive, and it has to be extremely, extremely descriptive and using as many of your senses, of your 5 senses as you possibly can, putting it all together in your visualization of where you want to go in the future or how you want to think about yourself. So if the way that you want to think about yourself, because right now you're like, oh, I'm a cashier, I'm not that smart, I don't really have a whole lot of potential, I'm just going to end up, staying as a cashier. Is that really what you want to do? And you think back to yourself and you say, you know what? The only reason I'm a cashier and I think this way is because I was always told I wasn't good enough. But I am good enough. And I know that because Jackie told me I'm good enough. And I can change that for myself. I can take that limiting belief and I can change it. And that's what I'm going to do. So instead of saying all I can be is a cashier and I'm not good enough and I'm not smart enough, you can start to have those positive affirmations of, I am smart enough and I am worthy. And I am worthy and smart enough to get an education and do something different with my life. And I want to be a dental hygienist instead. And I can be a dental hygienist. So that's your affirmation. I'm a dental hygienist and I'm good enough and I'm smart enough and I can get there. And you say that over to yourself and you say that over to yourself, and your mind it has that in the background. And then as opportunities come forward for you, your brain's going to recognize it and tee it back up for you so that you can be ready for when those opportunities show up at your doorstep, like getting into a community college and starting your dental hygiene career, or even just taking a class to pass high school and get your education credits from that. So the visualization piece comes into play next, and that's where, okay, I am going to visualize myself as a dental hygienist. So what does that mean? Well, I'm going to actually visualize myself being a dental hygienist in a dentist office with patients coming in, and I'm walking in and out and I'm helping them and I'm educating them about their oral health, and I can see myself doing that, and I'm smiling and I'm using my hands and I know what it feels like because I've been to the dentist, so I know what they're doing. I can visualize myself in that space, and I can smell what it smells like in the dentist office, and I can hear the sounds of the machines and people coming in and checking in and out, and I can see the room where I'm going to be working with this individual patient in the future, and I can see myself in that place. And if you visualize that over and over again, your brain sees that as this is a reality for you, right? So you're telling yourself you're smart enough and you're going to be a dental hygienist, and then you visualize using as many of your senses and being really, really descriptive of that process. Those memories, that information gets stored in your subconscious mind, and then your subconscious brain is working 24/7, 365 to help you make that a reality. So anytime something pops up that could be an opportunity for you, it'll help to remind you of that and steer you in the right direction. So that's how we use affirmations and visualization techniques to relearn that story and swap out the old with something that fits you much better and is much more aligned with you as an individual adult now. And you get to choose it. You have the power. It's completely up to you. And so you have to be just more self-aware and keep asking questions of yourself to dig down and figure out what are those root causes or shadow tendencies or tendencies that you have around decisions, etc., in how you've like operated in your life and how you think about yourself. Stop it and then go back to where you want to be in the future. Again, you have to be aware of those limiting beliefs. Requires that little bit of time travel to go back in time to figure out where it first got laid down. And then once you know it, you can embrace it, then you can do something about it. And I love just the fact of writing down what that limiting belief is, writing down what you want to swap it out for, and then creating positive affirmations, short statements that are very, very powerful and positive, right? That you can tell yourself over and over and over again. And honestly, it's really good to do it with whatever you can do with like a sensation in your body, a movement in your body. Say it out loud, sing it. I would often do affirmations in the car, not just on my walks. Sometimes you got to be careful because people look at you a little funny. But you can say these anywhere. You can say them in your head, but it's very powerful if you say it out loud, because then you're using multiple senses again, right? You're saying it, you're hearing it. And if you're doing something along with your body, again, it makes it just a stronger memory that gets to be laid down over and over again. Those positive affirmations, those visualizations of where you want to go in the future, where you actually see yourself in that new apartment or in that city that you want to move to, what you're doing, what you look like, what smells you have, what are you hearing, etc. Make it as rich as you can, as descriptive as you can. That lays it down in your memory banks, and then your brain's going to try to help you make it a reality. And that's how you expose your personal narrative and those limiting beliefs, and then reframe and relearn them to align better with who you are now and where you're going in the future. So I hope that you have found this to be helpful today. If you want to have more information about anything that we talked about today, if you need a little help going through and digging down deep to get to some of those root causes and limiting beliefs and where it happened from and how to replace it, we're always here. You just need to reach out. You can give us a call, or you can just go to the website and put down a discovery call, and you and I can talk a little bit more about how to replace your old limiting beliefs with ones that are much more aligned with who you are now and where you want to go. So we're always here for you. You just need to reach out. And one last thing that I just want to leave you with. Today's the 1st of November. November I love because it's a great time to be thankful. You know, we have Thanksgiving, we have All Souls Day today, we've got Dia de los Muertos this week. So there's a lot that we're honoring, right? And a lot to be thankful for. And I am thankful for you to be here today, but I also want you to honor yourself and to be thankful for everything that you have currently and where you're going to go. So it's a great time. I think this is just a great time to be thinking about giving thanks and being grateful in our lives. So I will let you go for this morning and hope that you can take some of the lessons that you learned today and apply them in your own life to help move you forward to where you want to go and to be your best possible self. Have a great day, and just reach out if you need anything. Take care. Hi, I'm back. I wanted to share a little bit more, and I just wanted to check with those of you that are on today too. When I was going through a lot of that information, one of the things that I forgot to mention was that as you're building the self-awareness and you're unpacking some of those limiting beliefs or the way that you have been experiencing the world and yourself through your personal narrative and story, that can get kind of uncomfortable at times. So a lot of times people will get to a point where they don't want to dig a little bit deeper, because when they dig deeper, it becomes painful, emotionally difficult. And that's normal. Any time that you're building self-awareness and becoming more conscious of the memories, etc., that we laid down in the past to keep us safe or to guide us in a way that our parents and caregivers and coaches and teachers, etc., thought was better for us. Sometimes when we go back there, it can be kind of uncomfortable. I know it really was for me. So when I was going through that time frame where I was really digging into why I was a people pleaser, perfectionist, and where it came from, first of all, I had to acknowledge the way that I made decisions that weren't always healthy or good for me. And so that was hard, right? Just doing that in and of itself. The other thing I think was going back into my childhood and having to relive some of that was very uncomfortable as well. And so it can be hard when it becomes uncomfortable. It be hard sometimes to go through that process on your own. And I think that's the other thing that I wanted to make sure that you're aware that we're always here to hold space for you, and that there's always help out there to guide you as you move through this. And sharing the information with someone that you really trust can be helpful too, in a couple of different ways. It helps you to stay accountable as you move through some of this work. And it also is just a sounding board for you so that you're not always feeling alone. But it's normal to feel uncomfortable, and the uncomfortableness or discomfort that you have can feel emotional and also physical. And it's all because, again, the way that your brain works. So as you start to pick up on some of this, it can get a little fearful, right? At times, and hard and heavy. And you have to be able to lean into that a little bit, and also make sure that as you're doing so, you're giving yourself a lot of grace and self-compassion and self-love. Because again, any of these ways that you were thinking about yourself, the ways that you were talking to yourself, the ways you were experiencing the world, all of that was to keep you safe. And it's just a part of you. It's not right or wrong. And so you really need to make sure that you're embracing it and loving yourself, and kind of lean into that discomfort because it's a really good teacher for you. And as you learn that you can replace these things with different feelings, different sensations, different ways of looking at yourself, at the world, that becomes the place where it becomes very empowering for you. And that starts to feel really, really good. So sometimes you have to lean into that discomfort in order to grow. And it's okay to be uncomfortable. And it's okay to take the time that you need to work through the process. So just take time as you go through it. And I just wanted to make sure that I shared that as well. All right. Take care.